What happens when your boss refuses to respect your health? I used to work at a company with a very strange and unhealthy work culture. Everyone, from the CEO to directors and even the owner, worked far too much. Some would proudly say they could only sleep after drinking because they had so much work that their minds wouldn't turn off. I was working 12 hours a day, not including my commute, without overtime pay, and earning less than the market average for 8 hours. Still, I stayed because I loved what I did. The company had a big name in my country, which helped my resume, and I got to work on interesting projects. I thought of it as a stepping stone to better opportunities. After about 8 months, though, I started to break down. I had stopped exercising, gained weight, and my mental health was suffering. I would wake up at 4 a.m., anxious about tasks I hadn't finished and often couldn't get back to sleep. Finally, I decided to resign. The CEO, who I had a good working relationship with, called me into his office with my director present. I was honest about why I wanted to leave. He asked what they could do to keep me. I told him our department desperately needed more staff and that I needed to start 1 hour later so I could at least go for a morning walk. He agreed with both points, said they were already working on hiring 2 more people, and promised to ask HR to post the openings. While my director was on vacation, I started coming in an hour later. Some coworkers gave me stinky looks, but I didn't care. I finally felt better. Interviews took place, and by the end of the 2 weeks, we had 2 new team members. Then, when my director returned, we were all called into a meeting about 2 big projects connected to the company preparing for an IPO. It was going to require every person's full effort. On the second day after the meeting, my director called me in and said I couldn't arrive late anymore. I reminded her my hours had been officially changed after the CEO's discussion. She insisted I had to start at the same time as everyone else, and said the workload was too busy to allow exceptions. I could accept it or quit. I realized she probably felt she could replace me now that we had extra staff, or that I wouldn't want to leave because having helped organize an IPO would look great on my resume. It didn't matter. I quit. She was surprised. In my country, notice is usually a month, unless the employer specifically asks you not to come, and even then they pay you. I arrived the next day and found out one of the new hires had already quit. The workload was too much for her. I saw my director calling HR to cancel the previous plan while glancing at me. I assumed she might want me to leave immediately, but with one person gone, it would be harder to manage the work. I kept working as usual, not wanting to damage my professional image. The company quickly found a replacement, since they still had resumes from the previous hiring cycle. The second new hire also quit soon after. The first replacement quit after only 1 day because of stress, and the second replacement refused to let me train him fully, worried I might say something negative about the company. All of this happened during my 3rd week of notice. During that same week, I had a successful interview with another company during my lunch hour. I believe my current company found out because my director suddenly started acting friendly and stopped coworkers from making snide remarks about me leaving. The work environment there was really toxic. On the first day of my 4th week, my director called me again and suggested we had both been too harsh. She offered to let me arrive 30 minutes later if I reduced my lunch by 30 minutes. She also said my quitting could be ignored since it was an impulsive decision. I told her I might consider staying if they matched the other company's offer plus 10%, allowed me to start an hour later as originally agreed, and put everything in writing by the end of the day. She accused me of being disloyal, hurting the company, and unprofessional. I reminded her that the deal to change my hours was her idea, but she canceled it and told me if I didn't like it, I should quit. I didn't like it, I quit. A 3rd replacement came that week and I trained her. She lasted only 2 weeks. The 2 extra hires for the department were never brought in because the company wanted to cut costs before the IPO. 2 months later, the entire team had changed except for the director, who stayed on. The CEO told me he was sad to see me leave but understood. HR later confirmed that he had been speaking with the owner and directors about changing the toxic work culture to retain talent. A friend at HR told me the owner finally stopped that nonsense. I tried to help, but some changes take longer than one person can make happen.